Good morning. The topic for today's program is We the People, a Constitution Day Celebration. Next to July 4, 1776, when we declared our independence from Great Britain, September 17, 1787 is probably the most important date in American history. That's when our founding fathers signed the U.S. Constitution. Today, it's the world's oldest written constitution and the model for many democracies around the world. Yet, we pay scant attention to what the founders accomplished on that date. Our four presenters today were involved with the production of Inventing America, Conversations with the Founders, a PBS miniseries that brings Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, and others back to life as they discuss the 1787 Constitutional Convention and other key events in our nation's formative years. Filmed at Hope College, the series has reached millions of viewers nationwide. Our presenters will take us behind the scenes and share their vision for this project. I'd like to introduce Mark Baer, who will in turn introduce the remaining panelists. Dr. Baer taught for 33 years at Hope and chaired the Department of History from 2010 to 2016. He retired in 2016, only to turn right around and agree to serve as the interim Dean for Arts and Humanities for the 2016-17 academic year. He came back again. He is currently serving as the interim chair of the music department. He's taught a variety of courses, history courses, and in addition to his teaching and research, Dr. Baer helped organize the Hope College Veritas Forum and was founding director of the college's Pew Society, which equips Hope students to consider and prepare for graduate school and university teaching careers. Dr. Baer.
Said that my greatest failure in life is trying to figure out how to retire, because all of you have succeeded, I failed. But I do look forward to retiring for good next summer and being at every single HASP event. There are actually going to be three presenters today. John Tommy caught some illness, disease, plague, whatever, in Scotland and brought it back with him, so he's not feeling well. So it will be Fred Johnson, and Milt Uzma, and me. So I'm going to introduce Milt. He will get some clips from some of the three programs. I recognize a lot of people in the audience were into a theater when we did filming. And so you saw the results of a lot of years of dreaming and creating and planning and replanning. And we thought it'd be fun just to kind of do the backstory to that. So I'm going to begin by introducing my friend Milt Uzma. He's a 1963 Hope graduate, and if, like me, you're kind of a naughty person and you want to know how old somebody is, you take the graduation year, add 22 years, go to the present, subtract, do the math, and that will tell you how old Milt Uzma is, but I'm not going to tell you how old Milt Uzma is. I just know that in his long careers, plural, he did a number of things. He was a journalist with the Chicago Tribune, he worked in higher education, and then he did a lot of writing on the side. I particularly like the book that he did, which also became an Emmy-winning PBS program on the children of the Holocaust. Along the way, like all great individuals, he fell in love with American history and began conceiving of this program, the fruits of which are the three episodes of Inventing America. So I'm going to begin by introducing him. He'll do some stuff, and then Fred Johnson, Milt, and I will come forward and do a Q&A. Milt.
Thank you, Mark. He begins by talking about my age, thank you. You know, Bernie Sanders will be 78 on Sunday. And I'm older than Bernie Sanders. By 3 days. So figure it out. I'll be 78 on Wednesday. As they say, bring no presents, just lend yours. But if you come, don't all come at the same time because we have room at our house. I want to thank Judy Parr. You know, I've never done a PowerPoint presentation. I'm what my son calls a Luddite. So Judy put this together for me, and she saved my life. And, your colleague, I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on his name. No. He helped you with the sound of the slide.
This would probably be Kyle Inman.
Kyle Inman, thank you, Kyle. I didn't know what I was doing out for me. You're right about my age, I want to start by telling you a story that I'm sure most of you have heard before because it has gained a certain currency in the last few years. It's about Ben Franklin. As he was leaving the Pennsylvania State House, the delegates to the Constitutional Convention had completed their work. They signed the document. They were sending it out for ratification. This was on September 17, 1787. And an elderly woman approached Dr. Franklin as he was leaving and said, please tell me, sir, do we have a republic or a monarchy? And he said, a republic, madam, if you could keep it. How many of you have heard that story before? Okay, I'm glad. So forgive me for telling it one more time. A lot of people feel that let me back up a little bit. If we could bring our founding fathers back, Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, if we could bring them back and show them our country today, what would they think? Would they turn over in their grave? Or would they be amazed? George Washington, who presided at the convention, said when the deliberations were done, he predicted that the Constitution, that the new republic would not last 20 years. 20 years. We're going on 1787, 203 years. We will have, the Constitution will be 203 years old on September 17th. I think our founders would be amazed. It doesn't mean that our country doesn't have problems. We have a lot of division in this country today, but we've been through this before. The Civil War, the race riots in the 60s, Watergate, Vietnam, you name it, all these things that have divided us. What has carried us through is that we are a nation of laws. Our Constitution has prevailed in every crisis we have faced in our history. You remember what President Ford said after Nixon resigned and Jerry Ford took office? He said, our Constitution works. This was right after Watergate. Our long national nightmare is over. Our Constitution works. It has worked in the past. It will work in the present. It will work in the future through whatever crisis we face. So, where to begin. The other day, out of curiosity, I Googled Constitution Day. And I figured you have to start somewhere. And this list popped up of some 60 countries that celebrate Constitution Day as an official holiday. We don't. First one on the list is Andorra, and the last one is Uzbekistan. And then there are all these countries in between. And what's ironic is that a lot of these democracies were inspired by our own. These are all newer republics, including, for example, Turkey. Their constitution is roughly modeled after ours, with the 3 divisions of power: legislative, judicial, executive. Even though it's a Muslim country, 90% Muslim, they have a secular system of government, roughly patterned after ours. The other thing I observed as I went through this list, and this is quite by happenstance, Marilyn and I happened to be in at least three of these countries when they were celebrating Constitution Day. So I dug back in my files, and if you'll indulge me for a minute, I'd like to show a few family pictures of countries that we have been in while they were celebrating Constitution Day. My reason for showing you these is to contrast how they celebrate it to how we celebrate it in this country. So, Judy, Poland is up there. Well, the picture at the top is of Marilyn and me with our grandson, Bud. This was taken a few years ago, 2004, when Poland joined the EU. In fact, our grandson called it the Union. Our son, Greg, lives in Krakow with his family, so we get over there about once a year to see them. Well, we happened to be there the day Poland joined the EU, 2004, and it coincided with their Constitution Day, which is May the 3rd, and they celebrate that every year. You see the picture of the Polish Dutch dancers. They do it like we do, tulip time, except without the wooden shoes. So next we go to Canada, I believe. Canada. A few years ago, we were in the Canadian Rockies, and we ended up in the town of Canmore, on the eastern edge of the mountains. And it happened to be their Constitution Day, what they call Canada Day, on July 1st. And I looked this up. There are some things I still have to look up, and I write them down, and I can't remember dates. What it celebrates is the date that all the former British colonies were unified under a Canadian flag. But the difference between the Canadian provinces and the United States is that they stayed loyal to the mother country, and we sort of left in a snit. It so happened that they were recovering from a bad flood. So in their parade, you can see the earth-moving equipment with the rocks. And the picture that's merely after the parade, we all gathered for a picnic in the park. So you see Marilyn there with the cake and the big red maple leaf on top. Finally, we go to Norway. A few years ago, we were on a cruise along the fjords, and we stopped in this little town called Stamsted. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And we pulled into the harbor, and good Lord, you would think the King of Norway was on our hip. This is the crowd that showed up, I had already gotten off by this time to take the picture. They had a parade too, and they even let me hold the sign. You see the date, May 17th, which is their Constitution Day. So that's how these countries celebrate it. How do we celebrate it in this country? Take a look. Well, that Edward Hopper painting Nighthawks kind of captures the spirit of it. Let's look at the next one. If you're on a subway in New York, you might celebrate it this way. Or if you're in Holland on Sunday morning, you would celebrate it that way. So you get the idea. We just don't make a big deal out of it here, which is too bad, really, because next to Independence Day, Constitution Day is probably the most important day in our history. If you went home and looked at your kitchen calendar, you probably wouldn't find it. It's just not a date to celebrate. Yet, if you look at that date in our history, September 17, it's not up there anymore, it's 1787. We're talking 232 years ago, and consider that our Constitution is the oldest in the world, oldest existing Constitution. And that ordinary citizens like you and me, not monarchs or dictators or tyrants, but ordinary citizens are capable of governing themselves. And the fact that our Constitution, as I mentioned, has become the model for so many other constitutions around the world, that is something to celebrate. It's probably our greatest contribution to human history, yet we all but ignore it. So our purpose this morning is really twofold. First, to recognize Constitution Day and its importance, but also to show you how our founding fathers, what they envisioned for the new United States of America when they created it. So we're going to take you behind the scenes of this project. We're going to start by looking at some clips. We filmed this at the DeWitt Theater. Many of you were there, so if you look closely, you might find yourself in some of the cutaway shots of the audience. So we're going to look first at the clips, and then we'll turn it back to Mark for the panel discussion. I want to show you first a clip from Steve Allen's show, Meeting of Minds.
Welcome to Meeting of Minds, starring from 20th century America, President Theodore Roosevelt, from ancient Egypt, Queen Cleopatra, from the American and French Revolutions, Citizen Thomas Paine, and from 13th century Europe, St. Thomas Aquinas. And now, your host, Mr. Steve Allen.
So that's the show that inspired Inventing America. This was popular back in the late 70s, early 80s. Do any of you remember it? Some of you do. Some of us are old enough to remember it. He would bring historical characters back and interview them around the table. People from different parts of the world, different eras. For example, in the first episode, he had Teddy Roosevelt and Thomas Paine. Well, Teddy Roosevelt called Thomas Paine a filthy little idiot, which he really did, but not to his face, except on the show. I mean, in real life, Paine was already dead by the time Roosevelt was born. But it was interesting how Steve Allen brought these people together. So that concept is what inspired Inventing America. So we took historical figures from our own history and put them around the table and did 3 episodes. First one on the Declaration of Independence, second one on the Constitution, third one on the Bill of Rights. Now, in this first clip from the series that we did, we have Thomas Jefferson. First we're going to show you the introduction that Mark hosted, and you'll see how meeting of minds inspired. Then we'll look at a key scene from this episode. It's called Making the Nation. First, the introduction.
From DeWitt Theater on the campus of Hope College in Holland, Michigan, we bring you Inventing America. Tonight, we meet 4 delegates to the Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia. John Adams from Massachusetts, Benjamin Franklin from Pennsylvania, Thomas Jefferson from Virginia, and John Dickinson from Pennsylvania. Now here is your moderator, Professor Mark Baer.
Thank you, and welcome to the program. When the American colonies declared their independence from England, they not only defied the most powerful nation on earth, they set into motion the founding of the first modern republic. What happened in the summer of 1776 was nothing short of a miracle. But how long would it last? Tonight, we meet 4 distinguished persons who served as delegates to the Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia. They're going to tell us, in their own words, about the miracle they pulled off. Their story is the untold story of the Declaration of Independence, but it's our story too.
So that's the introduction. In the next scene, I'm going to stand next to Julie here, so just picture Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. So I can read my notes. The older I get, the harder it is to keep track of this stuff. So in the next scene, we have Thomas Jefferson, played by Bill Parker, reading his draft of the Declaration of Independence to Ben Franklin and John Adams. Am I covering something up? The 3 were on a committee together to create the document. The scene is based on fact. All the words they speak are their own. We did this as a flashback. You'll see at the beginning an artist's rendering that John Tommy,
Could we go back to the moment that you read the first draft to Mr. Adams and Dr. Franklin?
It was in late June, 1776. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
I challenge you to diagram that sentence.
May I continue?
I'm sorry. Please do.
We hold these truths to be sacred and undeniable. That all men are created equal. That they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Strike sacred and undeniable. And it's too dogmatic. Besides, it's obvious.
Is that the word you want? Obvious? We hold these truths to be obvious.
Are you familiar with Euclid's Elements?
I met them at school.
Things that are equal to the same thing are equal to each other. Euclid's first axiom. All of mathematics, he said, is based upon axioms, truths which are self-evident. I see that. All men are created equal. Is that not also self-evident? We hold these truths to be self-evident. Yes, let that be our axiom. Self-evident?
Self-evident.
Self-evident it is, then.
So that's from episode 1. Judy actually did diagram that sentence. Printed in the HASP bulletin last year, right? So go back and look it up. It takes up a full page. It's been said that if the Declaration of Independence spelled out the idea of America, the Constitution spelled out the business of America. And in many ways, that was a lot harder. In the first place, it took 55 men to write it, not just one. But then creating a system of government, self-government, that had never been done before, at least successfully, that had to be a daunting task. I don't know how successful we were in capturing that, but that's what we took on in episode 2, making a government. Here's the introduction with Fred Johnson.
From DeWitt Theater on the campus of Hope College in Holland, Michigan, we bring you Inventing America. Tonight, we meet 4 delegates to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. James Madison of Virginia, Alexander Hamilton of New York, Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania, and Gouverneur Morris of Pennsylvania. Now here is your moderator, Fred Johnson.
Good evening and welcome to our program. In episode 1, Making a Nation, we talked about how the 13 American colonies declared their independence from Great Britain. That historic event took place at the Pennsylvania State House in Philadelphia, what we now call Independence Hall, in July of 1776. The colonies did indeed make good on their Declaration of Independence. The Continental Army, under the command of General George Washington, drove out the British. Then they established a new nation under the Articles of Confederation. But things did not work out quite as they had hoped. Why not? Well, tonight we're going to find out. We'll also find out what the Founding Fathers did about it and how they changed the world.
In the next clip, we have James Madison, father of the Constitution, explaining why we need government in the first place. The actor is John Douglas Hall, and the words are Madison's. Again, we didn't make this up.
People are always complaining about government, how it controls their lives. Why do we need it?
Well, if men were angels, no government would be necessary.
Can you elaborate?
Well, the reason for government is that we are men, not angels. The chief difficulty in framing a government that is to be administered by men is this. First, you must enable the government to control the government. And then, you must oblige it to control itself.
How did you accomplish that?
We didn't. The Constitution is and always will be a work in progress.
Next, we have Ben Franklin talking about something that is sorely missing in politics today, compromise, the art of compromise. Franklin is played by the late John Hammett of Colonial Williamsburg, and we'll have more to say about him later.
Gentlemen, we still have the representation issue to settle. Now, our differences on that matter are the chief obstacle to us reaching an agreement. With proportional representation, the smaller states fear that their liberties will be in danger. With equality of votes, the larger states fear that their money will be in danger. We must find a compromise, gentlemen, else we will fail in our mission.
How do you propose we do that?
Sometimes we must abandon a bit of our ideas so that we may unite the whole. Yes. When a cabinet maker makes a table out of two planks and they don't exactly fit, well, he takes a small bit from each to join them together. But in like manner, both sides must part with some of their demands in order to join in some accommodating proposition. Therefore, gentlemen, I propose that a committee be appointed to break the impasse.
Well, with all due respect, sir, I think we should proceed with the debate.
No, gentlemen, hear me out. We were sent hither to consult, not to contend with each other. Now, I sense the intransigence on both sides beginning to ease. Let it ease further with thoughtful reflection, not declamations and announcements. And let it be done by honorable men from both sides, men who declare to have in common a common good. Furthermore, gentlemen, tomorrow is the 4th of July. It was on that date, 11 years ago, that I gave my assent to the Declaration of Independence. The time is nigh, gentlemen, when we must establish a government that will prove to the world that we can indeed make it on our own.
In the next scene, we have Ben Franklin again, talking about the #1 issue that almost split the convention apart. That was the issue of slavery. An early draft of the Declaration of the Constitution, or part of the debate, actually was the first significant attempt to abolish slavery in this country. A little known fact that the southern states would have none of that. So what emerged was another compromise. In this scene we have, besides Franklin, Gouverneur Morris, I'll say more about him in a minute, Alexander Hamilton, and James Madison. Hamilton, by the way, had left the convention in a huff after they rejected his idea for a monarchy, but then he relented and came back, so he didn't miss part of the convention. We filmed this, by the way, right after the 2016 election. So Madison's description of the Electoral College couldn't have been more timely. And watch for Hamilton's reaction to that.
Gentlemen, I don't wish to dim your enthusiasm, but there is one more obstacle to overcome. And that is putting an end to this insidious institution of slavery. Now, the southern states say that if we continue to debate the issue, they'll walk out. What then?
We must do the best we can, as General Washington said. What has been proposed is that the importation of slaves be prohibited, but not until the year 1808.
No. That is not what I would choose, gentlemen, not at all. Nor would I choose as the basis of apportionment in the lower house the whole number of free persons and 3/5 of those persons bound to service. Does that mean that a slave is to be considered 3/5 of a person? No, gentlemen. This goes against every fiber of my being. But one must take what is in one's hands and bless it.
What happened to my proposal regarding the chief executive?
Oh, that. Well, we appointed a committee to look into it. They decided that a president should be chosen every 4 years by electors from each state, and that the number of electors from each state would be equal to the number of representatives they have in Congress. Call it an electoral college.
An electoral what?
An electoral college.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
But once again, gentlemen, we must take what we can get through compromise.
We're going to play just one more clip because I want to reserve time for the panel discussion. We're running a little over. So we're going to end with this clip from episode 2 with the reading of the Constitution, We the People. What's ironic is that the person who wrote the final draft of the Constitution, his name was Gouverneur Morris, is virtually unknown today. He had a wooden leg, which is another story. Maybe we'll get into that in the panel. He's quite a ladies' man, but he was an accomplished writer. Couldn't find an actor with a wooden leg to play the part, so he had to kind of fake that. Anyway, in this episode, he reads not the whole Constitution, just the preamble, and we'll play it to the end, and then we'll go into our panel discussion. Okay.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Sometimes you do amaze me, my friend.
I wish I had written it myself.
You will find signing right there.
I must confess, gentlemen, I do not approve of several parts of this Constitution, but I am not sure that I shall never approve them. For having lived long, I have often found instances of being obliged by better information. The older I get, the more I am apt to doubt my own judgment and pay respect to the judgment of others. Therefore, gentlemen, I agree to this Constitution with all its faults because I expect no better and because I am not sure it is not the best.
No man's ideas are more remote from this document than mine. Nevertheless, it is better than nothing.
Better than nothing. Better than nothing. This document will do no less than decide forever the fate of Republican governments.
For 4 months, gentlemen, I have looked up at the President's chair and observed the carving of the sun with outstretched rays. I couldn't tell if it was a rising sun or a setting sun. But now I have the happiness to know it is a rising sun.
If I may say so, gentlemen, the union of so many states is, in the eyes of the world, a wonder.
The wonder, gentlemen, is that our union is not a monarchy, but a republic, if we can keep it.
And so, on September 17, 1787, the delegates finished their work. Today we call it the Miracle at Philadelphia. Nobody thought that this new American Republic, this bold experiment in self-government would last. It has. longer than any other republic in the world. Still, we might ask ourselves once in a while, as old wise Ben Franklin did when it all started, can we keep it?
So that's it. Before I turn it back to Mark, I just want to thank him publicly for bringing the production to Hope College. Without him, this would not have happened. So not only did we remind 50 or 60 million viewers what it means to be American, but I think we brought honor and credit to Hope College as well. So please join me in thanking Mark.
We have about 10 minutes. If there are questions, I would address them to the creator, Milt, of creativity, and I would address them to the historian of America, Fred Johnson. I would not address them to the historian of Britain. That's me. That would be a tough person to ask, but go ahead and ask a question. While you're thinking, I'm going to ask my friend Fred, who is a historian of America, what did the framers of the Constitution get right? What did they get wrong? And fast forward to today, what does it mean for all of us?
Good morning, everybody. And especially good morning to the students of my History 131 class. How y'all doing?
You don't know how to teach in your class?
No, I made them come here. Mark asked me, what did the framers get it right? The framers got it right, the fact that they attempted to do something that had never been done before. Governments throughout the world, particularly in the Western world, have been run on tradition, have been run on local necessities. This was the first time, and it was a very, very bold thing to do, that people decided to put down the rules and structure of government in a codified form. In other words, to write it down so that anybody who could read could see for themselves how the government was established, how it was supposed to be operating, and they could interpret it for themselves. That's a lot because when you come from a tradition, we have divine right kingships, where authority is passed down from God to the church to the king. There's a lot of assumptions that go on that all authority and all power, all judgment, all wisdom resides in the crown. They're intending that this thing written on paper is a document for a nation that can be distributed to the people and interpreted by the people for themselves. Now, the process of American democracy is one where things like the vote are going to be on a progressive basis. First, from a certain class of white men, with the Jacksonian era, to more white men, eventually black men, then eventually women, then eventually 18-year-olds. So this is an ongoing evolutionary development. That's one of the things they got right, was putting it down on paper. One of the things that they failed to deal with, as Mill pointed out, the issue of slavery almost tore the convention apart, not once, but from start to finish. And as it turns out, that when the issue of slavery came up in 1820, when Missouri was applying for admission to the Union, it almost did tear the Union apart. It became so bad, in fact, that Thomas Jefferson wrote a letter to his friend John Holmes, in which he put it this way: we have a wolf by the ears, and we can neither hold it nor safely let it go. Imagine that. The imagery, in typical Jeffersonian style, was amazing. A hungry wolf, you can't let it go, but you also can't get rid of it. What are you supposed to do? And he's saying this 40 years before Fort Sumter. So, as we will put it today, kicking that can down the road eventually cost America a civil war, and it was one of the major issues left undone by the Constitutional Convention. But the thing about the Constitutional Convention was that another thing they got right was that they put into it an amending process, so that after the Civil War, you could update that document so that it can fulfill the vision of being a living document with the addition of the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, the 14th Amendment, which gives us the notion of dual citizenship. And I tell my students all the time, when people today, many of whom are ignorant of what the document is talking about, I'm not talking about folk out here, I'm talking about people in Congress. When people start talking about fooling around and changing the language on citizenship, we should pay very close attention to that. Because if you're doing it to change the language, to target people outside of the country, oftentimes that backfires and affects people inside the country. It's called unintended consequences. But the 14th Amendment modernizes the Constitution with things like equal protection of the laws. Equal protection of the laws is something passed in the 14th Amendment, which was applied in 1954 during the case of Brown versus Board of Education, and it strikes down desegregation in public schools, and then by extension in all public facilities and accommodations. And then of course the 15th Amendment, which did a right thing, giving black men the right to vote, but it did a poor thing in not giving women the right to vote. So it's a mixed bag, it's an ongoing development relative to what the founding fathers did right and then what they did wrong.
Thanks, Fred. How about a question? For one of you.
I'm wondering if you feel that the reasons for the Electoral College still hold true today, or is it a way to manipulate the election as we've seen in the past 20 years, where somebody who got the majority of the popular vote lost the election?
I think Fred is better with that.
The founding fathers were they were not averse to using the phrase the mob, and they generally considered people to be the uninformed, unwashed, illiterate people. Why should they give their life fortunes? Why should they submit their personal well-being to people who were not of the same status and class as they were? They meant for all people to share in this Republican democracy, and that's all they say in the class. And in 1787, when you say we the people, who's we? We have to understand that in 1787, as they're drafting this document, as the ink is drying on it, as the ink is literally drying on the document, there is a system of evolving, expanding tyranny called slavery that is not being established but evolving inside the country. So there's always this very, very uncomfortable relationship between the aspiration of liberty, freedom, and opportunity and the reality of the tyranny in their midst. And so the founding fathers were very, very, very wary of the mob seizing control of the government. This became one of the points of division during the French Revolution. You had people who were followers of Thomas Jefferson, who was a Francophile, who thought it was great that the French people got rid of the king. You know, the idea that the king got his head chopped off made him a little bit nervous. But then you had people who were followers of John Adams, the Federalists, they were not necessarily pro-British and everything, but they were definitely more favorable toward a strong centralized government. And the people who followed John Adams were absolutely horrified when they saw in France during the Revolution. So the Electoral College was put in place, among other things, to check the proclivities of the mob. Somebody who is elected by popular vote may not necessarily always be the right one. How do we know that the mob was not manipulated by somebody to get that result? So the Electoral College was put in there as a check to balance the passions and desires of the mob. So we get a popular vote, then we get the Electoral College. Most of the time in our history, the Electoral College results have been in sync with the popular vote. But then there have been those occasions that has not been the case. And in 2016, if you're like me, you wept.
Maybe one more brief question.
There are a number of here HASP members who were a part of the Inventing America experience of seeing the three programs. But our membership has increased significantly since then, and I wondered if you could tell us how those who haven't seen it, where they can see it, and are there plans for future programs?
We have no plans for future programs. Actually, we started out with the idea of doing 8 episodes. We wound up doing 3. There's an awful lot of work involved in putting this together, recruiting cast, raising the money, doing all the production stuff. And I wasn't getting any younger, so I figured 3, that made a nice package, the 3 founding documents. And so that's what we did. As for those of you who weren't there and would like to watch it, all you have to do is Google PBS Inventing America, and you can watch it online. You can pick any one of the episodes. That would be the easiest way. The more expensive way would be to buy DVDs. That would help, because we're putting up a website that still needs to be paid for. So I would rather have you do the latter, but we also have the Google option.
So just to close with Milt's last point, we've been working the last 6 months or so with WGBU to create a website which we want to make available to every high school American history teacher in the country, so that it will use chunks of the 3 programs to help high school students understand the Declaration better, the Constitution better, and the Bill of Rights better. And I hope that launches maybe in the next few days or so. So thank you very much for being here, and I'm going to turn it over.